Are you planning to retire in 2023? Here's 7 things to consider before you do. I'm Ryan Wheelis, host of the On the Money YouTube channel powered by Allied Wealth, and I'm here to share with you a couple of things you should really consider and be mindful of before you plunge into retirement in 2023. So, the first thing you want to do is review your retirement financial plan. And when I talk about a financial plan, a lot of times people think that the statement they get in the mail from their custodian, like Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or wherever you custody your money at, is like a retirement plan. And it's really not, folks. There's 6 key things to consider in your retirement plan. The first one, by far, is the most important, and it's having a handle on something called risk capacity versus risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is what mentally we think we can afford to lose in a down market and not panic. Risk capacity is what we could actually afford to lose and still be able to have enough asset base or enough money left to produce the income that we need to maintain the lifestyle we wish to live in our golden years. So it's super important that you understand risk capacity as part of your financial plan. The next thing you want to do is have an income plan. And when you retire, it's not about net worth. It's about a paycheck you can outlive, right? Super important thing to be mindful of there because a lot of people think retirement's about net worth, and it's really not. It's about income. The next thing you want to do is have an investment plan that matches your risk tolerance, risk capacity, more importantly, and provides that income in all market situations. All right. You also want to have a tax plan, folks. I'm a big believer that taxes will actually be the biggest expense you have in retirement. And I think it's going to be more than healthcare, by the way. All right. So, super important to have a tax efficient investment plan. That could include doing some Roth IRA conversions. That can include when to take Social Security and maybe delaying that a little bit. It can also include saving money in the right composition of accounts before you retire. All right. So, some tips there as well. Next thing is a healthcare plan. Super important, folks. I've had people come to me and say, Ryan, we're gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna retire at 62 and roll the dice until I'm 65. And I can't think of a more risky thing. Some type of uninsured event occurring in that gap period, so to speak, could really wipe you out financially. So, most of us. Try to retire and wait till Medicare age. I think that's a good idea because if you don't have health insurance, it's a big challenge, right? Now, you can self-insure. You can do that. I think it's very risky. You can also go to the ACA exchange and get health insurance there as well. And a lot of times, what happens is when you get to 65, you may have company insurance. Like, for instance, we work with a lot of Exxon employees. Their primary insurance is their Exxon insurance. When they get to 65 and go into Medicare, the Exxon insurance becomes their supplemental insurance. So the bottom line is to have a healthcare plan. A lot of things to consider and navigate there, and a good advisor can help you navigate the complications of a good healthcare plan in retirement. The next thing is going to be a legacy plan. And legacy planning is what happens to your assets after you're gone. And folks, don't leave an unplanned estate behind. I've seen it destroy the strongest of family units. Something they could think about legacy planning as well is, we want to mitigate tax liability today. And quite frankly, if I leave my kids a sizable estate, I want to mitigate tax liability for them as well. And part of a good legacy and estate plan will help address that. That can also include trusts and wills, probate avoidance, also your advance directives and that sort of thing. Super important to have that as part of your overall financial plan. The next thing to think about, bigger scope here, is inflation, right? We're dealing with inflation right now, highest inflation we've had in our country in quite some time. So when to deal with inflation, it's really important that we understand that growth assets, all right, are super important to have in our portfolio to help combat the long-term negative effects of inflation. And oftentimes I see I see people taking too much risk for sure. I also see people not taking on enough risk, right? So risk would include growth assets, and growth assets will really help combat inflation over a longer period of time. And we can set that as a kind of a compartmentalized inflation fighting piece of your overall portfolio. Maybe we put, I don't know, we've got $1 million portfolio. We put $250,000 in longer term growth assets to help combat inflation over time. Um, the next thing is to protect your money from the market. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. Obviously, if we're going to have to combat inflation, we can't go put all of our money under our mattress and spend it that way because we're going to lose purchasing power to inflation, right? So, how do we protect our money from the market? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. The first one is don't have all your money in the stock market, and you don't have to have all of your money in the stock market or the bond market to get where you want to go in retirement. You simply don't, folks. There's other strategies out there. And something to consider is having a balanced approach between risk money and safe money. And what I mean by that is risk money goes up or down based on stock market or economic conditions, which is beyond your control, by the way, beyond my control as a money manager and an investment advisor and a financial planner. But to that end, the other half of that spectrum of the balanced approach is to have a safe money, right? And safe money are things like treasuries, yielding pretty good right now. There are bank CDs out there. There's index linked products, structured products. There's index annuities. There's fixed annuities. There's a lot of way to have safe money out there and get a reasonable rate of return. And to balance your risk portfolio with a safe portfolio can really help you protect your money in a down market. For instance, if you got all your money in an index fund, just say the S&P 500 index fund, and the index goes down 20%, well, you just lost 20% of your portfolio. Well, if you had half the money in a safe money vehicle, okay, and half the money in the risk bucket, right, and the index fund, and the market went down 20%, you would only go down about 10% because you have some safe money. And it's likely that safe money bucket will also have some yield and cushion that loss. So just having a balanced approach alone can really help protect you in your golden years over the long term. The next thing to consider about protecting your money from the market as well is going to be having income buckets. And what I mean by that is your income bucket is how much income do you need over the next 3 years. For instance, maybe it's, between your pension, if you've got one, Social Security, maybe you've got rental income, whatever it is. Let's just assume you needed $40,000 a year from your portfolio over the next 3 years. Well, if you do, you might consider just having that money set aside in a bank account somewhere, right? So it'd be $120,000. You know you're going to spend that down over the next 3 years, but in the event a market downturn comes during that 3 year period, you're not going over that risk bucket, that market bucket, so to speak, and pulling money out of that account while the market's down. So important to think about that as well. So another one is planning for healthcare. We already kind of talked about the healthcare situation as part of an overall written comprehensive financial plan. And, planning for healthcare is super important. And folks, that can also consider long-term care. My own mom and I were having a conversation recently, and mom's done pretty well. My dad's done pretty well saving for retirement. Their expenses are very low. And I don't think they need more than a 4% distribution rate on their accounts to have a very solid income, including their Social Security. So quite proud of them. They've done a great job, by the way. But her concern was, honey, I think we've got it made, but, what about long-term care? And I said, well, Mom, think about this for a minute. If you have to go into a care facility of some kind, the average cost is about $80,000 a year. The average stay in that facility is about 3 years. All right. So 3 years at $80,000 a year is about $240,000. Well, that $240,000 is gone, right? So if you had a $2 million nest egg and it dwindled down, say, $250,000 over that 3 year period, and the spouse that was in the care facility passed on and went to go meet their maker there at the facility, the surviving spouse would have $1.75 million plus the larger of the two Social Security checks. So if that's you kind of can self-insure, so to speak, with long-term care. So think about that. In addition, there's other programs out there to where you can get long-term care insurance. Some annuities have income riders, and the income rider payments that you would be getting during that day, if you went into a care facility or had to have somebody come to your home, the payments you're getting would double for that duration. Sometimes they cap it at 3 years, sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes for the duration. There's also asset-based long-term care solutions out there as well. So some things to consider there. Next thing is you've got to shift, and this is hard to do, by the way, folks. You've got to shift from that save mode, right? Because we've been savers, put money in that 401k, save, 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 save. Well, when you get to retirement, it's not about save, 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 save anymore. What it's about now is spending, right? And so that's part of having a good spending plan. And folks, a good spending plan will allow you to go out into the world in retirement and spend money with confidence. Even though the stock market may be down, even though inflation may be up, even though interest rates may be down, a good spending plan allows you to go out into the world in retirement and spend money with confidence. So, super important though, you've got to be able to shift that mindset from save, 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 save to spend. And it's a very hard thing to do. A lot of folks that we help on the channel here, they have a hard time adapting to that mindset. They eventually get into it after a while, but it's something that's very difficult for them to overcome. Um, the next thing, and this is honestly, this is probably one of the most important things, is reestablish your purpose. Matt Stevenson is one of the advisors at Allied Wealth, also president, one of my closest friends, a phenomenal contributor to the channel, helps me on the TV show, the radio show as well. He tells a story about one of his clients who worked for the same company for like 40 years, and he retired, I think like a Friday or something like that. And the guy gets in his car on Monday morning and drives to work. And he's sitting in the parking garage, literally in the parking garage, and he calls Matt. And he's like, Matt, I don't know what to do. I mean, I've been doing this for the last 40 years. I'm literally sitting in the parking garage at work right now, and I don't know what to do. And so, the important part of this is reestablish your purpose, folks. You can see that I've got a beautiful background behind me. I'm sitting here in Cabo San Lucas as I make this video. I'm there with my wife and children on vacation. It's super, super important to have a purpose. And, I'm working and saving and accumulating and investing in a way to ultimately be able to come live here and retire here in Cabo with my family. And that's my dream. That's what I'm working to. It's my goal to maybe have a fishing boat that I charter out, and maybe a little taco bar somewhere that loses money because I don't have to make money because I did well enough in life and in business, to where I just do it for fun, right? And that's kind of my purpose and kind of where I'm going. And you need to find your purpose. It's super important to have purpose in what you're going to do in your golden years. The worst thing you can do is go home and retire and sit in the lazy boy rocking chair. That is the fastest way to find yourself in a deteriorating health situation, and it's just not the right thing to do. So make sure you have a vision. What do you want to do in your golden years? What's your purpose? Do you want to do charity work? Do you want to help people? Do you want to volunteer? Whatever that is, find that. It's super important that you have that vision in mind before you retire, not afterwards. To me, it can be almost more important than the financially fit part of the conversation. All right. So make sure you have a purpose. And folks, the last thing you can do if you're looking to retire well in 2023 is to plan to stay on top of your finances. Once you get that investment plan going, once you get that income plan going, I mean, stay on top of things, folks. A big variable we already talked about is taxation. Taxes can change, right? I've got people that say, well, Ryan, I want $150,000 a year in income. I'm like, well, you may not spend that in retirement. So let's not set up automatic income flows of $150,000. Let's get it closer to 120 so we can use standard deductions and exemptions to keep you in that 12% tax bracket as long as we possibly can. And if we need to go up in the next tax bracket, we can. But let's be mindful of taxes, for instance, and tax laws can change. We have the Trump tax cuts, as they're called, expiring here before long. We know that's going to happen. That's going to usher in tax changes. So that's one thing to consider about keeping on top of your finances. Keep on top of spending. Don't spend too much. Don't go into retirement and go buy the dually truck and the 75-foot gooseneck trailer. Do that before you retire. All right. Stay on top of your investments, folks. Be mindful that situations in the markets change. Some investments are very favorable at some times. Some are not favorable at some times. You might have to shift your investments around, that sort of thing. So just be sure you stay on top of your finances and your spending. Well, folks, if you're planning to retire in 2023, that's 7 things. A lot of information there can really help you do it the right way. And remember, you only get one shot to do it the right way, one time. All right. I'm Ryan Wheelis with On the Money YouTube channel, powered by Allied Wealth. Thank you so much for tuning in the channel. If you like the content we're putting out, give us a like down below. Hit the subscribe button as well, and we'll keep updating when we put out new videos. Have a great day and happy Monday from Cabo. Cheers.